Now we are live. Welcome, everybody. 100 people in the room already. So good to see. And we're kicking off immediately, guys, because we've got loads of awesome stuff to talk about this morning. So we don't want to waste any time. Once again, welcome to everyone joining the webinar. This is part of our weekly webinar series, and as you can see, we're branding them HR Indaba Network Webinar these days, which means there's going to be a very exciting announcement soon about what that's going to mean for the HR community. A little tip where the HR Indaba as a great event. It's going to be a great community for HR professionals with ongoing stuff throughout the year, and we're very excited to have this story, Workplace of the Future, as one of the first sort of installations of that. Obviously, this webinar is made possible by Workday, and we'll hear a little bit about Workday as well. Very important to mention that Workday is a phenomenal supporter of the CHRO South Africa community and the HR Indaba over the last 2-3 years. So we really appreciate that support, and we look forward to our ongoing partnership. Zuko, you can also see Zuko Mdwaba, the boss of Workday in this part of the world, in the middle there. And then then obviously we're going to hear about the Altron story today. Altron is also a great supporter of the CHRO community. We often spar with the CEO Mteto Nyati. He loves what we do. We love what he does. And today we have the privilege of having Dolores Mashishi in our midst, the HR exec that has made it all happen in the last 2-3 years, and that's what she's going to be talking about. Very important to say this is your webinar, so please ask questions, introduce yourself in the chat. Comments, whatever you like. If there's a question that we don't get to, we will make sure that the Altron team will respond to it later, and get that answer to you. Or if it's a question for Zuko, likewise. As part of the registration, there were already some questions submitted, and Johan van Zel from ShopRite said he wants to hear real problems and real solutions, not a sales pitch. So I thought that was interesting. That's why we've got Dolores. And but Elias Monering from Mitex said he wants to learn more about Workday. So I was quite happy to have Zuko on the call on the webinar as well. Before handing over to Dolores for a cool presentation, I'm just gonna chuck a quick poll in the chat that you can fill out as Dolores is chatting, and it says, how ready are the people in your organization to adopt a digitally transformed workplace? And the options are ready as they'll ever be, all systems go. The majority is keen and excited, but some will battle. There are some pockets of excellence, but it'll be a slow drag, or not ready at all, except me. That's why I joined this webinar. So those are the 4 options. Very keen to hear what you guys have to say. So I'm going to stop this presentation. Zuko and I will jump off camera, and I'm going to hand over to Dolores in 3, 2, 1, go.
Thank you, Joel, and Zuko, my partner in crime for today. And good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining me as I take you through the journey of Altron in terms of people, technology, and how we've tried to enable our people in the utilization of the technology. And I'm going to talk about the journey as for Altron from an HR perspective as well from a business perspective. So Altron, to introduce it at the beginning, Altron is a holding company. It's domiciled in South Africa, and it's listed on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. It's invested in the information and communication technology sector. At this point, we've got about 8,500 people. We've got footprint in South Africa. We've got footprint in Australia, in the UK, in the selected part of Africa. And we focus a lot on 4 areas of information technology. We focus on the areas of IoT, which is Internet of Things. We focus on cloud, These are the segments we focus on: IoT, cloud, digital transformation, and managed services. Our offerings spread across a whole number of services, be it security services, managed services, narrowband and broadband, communications services, a lot of services that focus in all of those segments. So we are very, very quite big. Just a little bit of a history as well in 2 minutes. As we know, Altron has been around for 50 years. And I say 50 years because the new Altron and the One Altron strategy really took effect 3 years ago, in 2017 to be exact. So in the past 50 years, Altron was owned by the Venter family. It was a family-owned business for all those 50 years. And in all those 50 years, the organization focused not just into the technology space, but also in the manufacturing space. So very quite very strong representative of a technology company in South Africa at the time. And when new shareholders came into place and Mteto became the CEO in 2017, that's when we saw what we call the One Altron strategy. Now I'm going to go into the next slide. So that's where I'm going to start the story from to share with you. And if we talk about the One Altron strategy, the very first thing that the CEO did and the new leadership team that came on board at the time, me being one of them, was that we had to look at what is going to be the focus of this organization. Part of what the shareholder requested was that we firstly need to get rid of all the assets that were not pure technology assets so that we can focus the strategy. We went through a 3-day process where we kind of looked at what is the strategy going to mean, and what you're seeing in front of you is really what we came up with as a One Altron strategy. If you ask any of the Altronians, they will pull out this page, because this page is really a storyline of who we are, what we are about, and where we're going, all in one page. So you will see in terms of the vision, we chose to become a leading technology solution provider. That is why all of the other assets that really are not technology based, they were sold off in year 1, 2017, 2018. And we chose a purpose that really it's a whole long process of how do we actually want to be remembered as Altron? And one of the key things around it is that technology being a market that is really, really growing, and not necessarily people have kind of grasped the essence of what this technology can do. Our purpose then became that we actually want to be there. We want to be that kind of technology that will innovate and be there when it matters. Because when it matters, that's where you will see that people will remember, and people will come into understanding what it is, this technology that we do, and how do we actually harness the innovation that is still out there in the market. It is not by default, it's actually by design that in the middle of that strategy, on the middle of the page, you see a set of values. And when we looked at the vision that we want, leading technology solution provider, and the purpose that we have, you will see that these are high order purpose. And when I say high order purpose, these are purposes that really look at transformational kind of behaviors. And for us to be able to achieve these kind of transformational kind of behaviors, we needed to look at, okay, what are the values that are going to help us to get there? So these are the values that we came up there in the middle of the page, because they really speak to how we want to actually work, how we want to be. And that's why they're in the middle. We put people in the center, and the people, we are driven by the values of the organization. I've highlighted 3 values in there, as you can see, which is collaborate across teams, getting things done and enjoy doing them, passionate about employees, customers, partners, and communities. Not that the others values are not important, but these 3 values from a people strategy perspective were the values that we as a HR, we pulled out, and we said, let's embed our people agenda and our people strategy on these particular values. Because our strategy is going to be around collaboration and bringing different things together. And we can only do that if we collaborate, right? Getting things done without saying, and being passionate about employees, customers, partners, and it is. But remember, the way the organization was before is that a lot of operations that we had then were bought in. So there were joint ventures that came in, or there were organizations that were bought in the organization, and they became standalone entities on their own. So as you can imagine, when the One Altron strategy came, the One Altron strategy came into being, and it found almost about 9 different entities that were operating separately, operating differently. And therefore, if you have all of those entities that are different and operating differently, when you start talking anything one, you see that you're going to have a problem. You're going to need some things that are going to be drawn in to make all the 9 operations to actually collaborate and become one in terms of the One Altron strategy. Our goal to be able to achieve in terms of the strategy, we always talk about the 251 goal. And the 251 goal really talks about, we've got a 5-year strategy, and in a 5-year strategy, we want to double our EBITDA in 5 years using this One Altron strategy. That's where the 251 comes from. I've spoken about the segments that we represent. We identified growth areas. Anything that we do, whether it's about buying Workday or introducing Workday as part of our digital transformation, it has to fit into the growth space. Now, if you know Workday is a cloud solution. It had to be, if our strategy, if our growth area talks about cloud services, that's where we needed to locate the solution that we are buying in terms of our strategy and in terms of our growth area. And then we've got our set of strategic priorities. These strategic priorities are what we measure everyone on. The business is being measured on these. The operations are being measured on these. And these are the ones that will take the strategy forward. And from an HR perspective, I pulled out employee excellence, because without our people, really, this strategy will not work and will not see the time of day. So if you talk to anybody at Altron, they will quote this with their eyes closed, because this is really what is pushing us. This is our radar of where we're going. We are 3 years into the 5-year strategy as we speak. Just a little bit about the societal impact. We believe that as much as we're driven by the values, we are a multinational organization that is actually domiciled in South Africa. So we are very close to the realities of what is happening in our country. And therefore, we are driven by a great societal impact, where we say we believe that we want to do good business while doing good. And those are the 4 areas that we have chosen as an organization to be able to make a mark and bring our innovation into the 4 areas of safety and security, skills development, financial inclusion, and healthcare management. So anything that we do over and above how our strategy is pushing is really impacting our society of South Africa in those 4 areas. So the One Altron strategy came into being, and when I joined as the group executive of human capital, I was then given this One Altron strategy and said, there's a strategy. You need to provide a people agenda, a people roadmap that will actually support this strategy. And on the slide here, you can see that we then went on a 3-year roadmap. And this 3-year roadmap really talks about the year phases of how we're going to see, or how we're going to really implement our HR or our people strategy. And our people strategy, it's very embedded very much on the strategic priorities, because as I said, we get measured on these strategic priorities. So year 1 was a very, very tough year. As you can imagine, coming in, finding 9 operations that have got 9 structures, 9 human capital policies. So the very first thing that we said we will do, is to de-risk the environment, because it was a very risky environment. It was risky in the sense that the one Altron strategy will not land as long as we still have these 9 operations happening. So what we did then is we looked at what are the kind of things that we're going to standardize to support the one Altron strategy. So we went into a standardization mode. We standardized policies. We looked at great place to work that we want to aspire to. We looked at elements of policies that we want to make agile. So that was it was a fortunate and unfortunate as well. Fortunate in the sense that, you know, the platform was there, you're new, you can literally change anything. That's the time for change. The window for change was that year 1. That was the fortunate part. The unfortunate part was that you're going to work with quite a number of mindset that need to be able to change. You're going to balance between what is centralized, what is not centralized, you know, all of those elements to professionalize the organization. I mean, the year 1, you come into an organization where, you know, the HR history and the HR process, it's really not where you want to be. It's not supporting the strategy as it is. The strategy was new. So as much as the strategy is changing, HR also needed to change in terms of we needed to professionalize the entity and the function within the organization. HR is not really about hiring and firing. It's really much bigger than that, especially if you look at what the One Altron strategy was asking us. We termed that year 1 positioning for growth, because Altron was going through a growth path and a growth strategy. Year 2, we termed it gearing for growth. Once you've de-risked, once you've standardized, once you've professionalized the organization, once the values have been embedded, you now need to automate. You needed to then bring in an enabler. You need to bring in a technology, a solution that is really going to make all of the work that you've done at the de-risking work much more smoother and integrate much more smoother. And really, this is where Workday comes in. And what we then went into a process of looking at really what does our strategy say about solutions, and what are our digital transformations say about our digital transformation journey. Because we couldn't bring Workday just as a one entity that is not going to form part of the whole technology enterprise of Altron. Altron is a technology solution provider, and therefore we cannot be producing great innovation out there when inside our customer, which is our staff members, are not actually experiencing technology or solutions that really are world-class. So in come Workday, and here I'm going to stop a bit and just call in Zuko for a minute, because it was really a very humbling story how we came into Workday. So Workday runs what they call Workday-Rising every year, and I'll let Zuko talk about it. But how we came about it, we obviously said we want the best, we want a cloud solution, we want an integrated solution, and we also want a solution that is really one touch, where people, that is going to be intuitive, because we were not oblivious to the fact that not everybody is actually conversant with technology. So we did not shy away from that fact. So we wanted something that will be very, very intuitive. And we looked at what Gartner was rating, and Gartner rated Workday, and it rated SAP as well. And we called both of them in, and obviously we went with Workday. And do you want to talk about a little bit about, Zuko, about the solution itself, and really how, especially the experience of Rising in terms of how it came about?
Thank you very much, Dolores. Good morning, everyone. It's been a journey. It's been an amazing journey, Dolores, as you have mentioned. I think one of the key points that I'd like to make before I get into the details around Rising and some of the part of the journey that we've traveled is to how humbled we are that listening to you talking about your strategy and a pillar that's quite critical to the future of Altron, where you were able to find or find a match with an organization that we partner with and travel that journey with. We're really, really quite humbled. It's a really privileged position. Thank you for that. So Rising, I mean, Rising is a global conference that we have on an annual basis. So basically, one of the things that we do as Workday, we always encourage future customers or prospective customers that we're talking to, that they should not only listen to us, but they should speak to customers out there, because I think the voice of the customer is more authentic than anyone else out there. Because there was a point earlier that was made in the opening that hopefully it's not a sales pitch. I don't want to get into a sales pitch. I truly believe that the voice of the customer is the most profound voice that you'll hear. Listening to Dolores, for me, is something that's quite heartwarming, because it's a customer talking about the experience that they're having. So maybe just moving back to where we started, Dolores, you would remember a very key meeting that we had in your boardroom in Parktown, where the entire executive team was there, led by Mteto. And Mteto was very clear on some of the things that he was looking at. Mteto spoke about the core values that you guys, that Altron have. And I also spoke about the core values. It was actually quite amazing how aligned we were on some of the values that we have. I mean, when you look at the Workday values, we've got employees, we've got customers, we have got integrity, we have got innovation, we have got profitability, and we've got fun. And you've touched on some of these as being the core values for Altron. And that, I think that in many ways that really resonated with the journey that we were trying to embark on. So one of the things that Teto, if I were to quote him, mentioned on that day was, it's actually quite interesting, because he spoke to exactly what you had on the vision. You know, he spoke about culture being one of the key areas where Altron had the biggest challenge, and he wanted to break the silos, he wanted to embrace diversity, and so on and so forth, you know. So those were some of the things that where we started, and then leading to a conversation that we had leading to Rising, which was in Europe, that Dolores attended. I think at Rising, if I were to say so myself, Dolores, I think one of the profound moments was when there was a keynote. It's actually quite amazing. I was sitting next to you, and there was a keynote by Michael Bush. Michael Bush is the CEO of Great Place to Work. Great Place to Work, basically, the focus is all about employees. It's all about creating environments where it is great to be an employee in companies. So aligned with him, there was I had a colleague that was there, also did a keynote. And long story short, out of that, as a follow-up, Dolores, you had your kickoff, I think a few months later, where you had Michael Bush as one of your keynote speakers, which was actually quite profound. But at Rising, the opportunity that was created was basically you talking to, getting exposed to Workday more than we had to the journey that we had started in South Africa. But most importantly, also experiencing what hopefully other companies are experiencing today, talking to customers, you know, hearing the customer's voice. So I'll pause on that, and maybe we can talk about things.
Yes, thanks, Duko. I mean, it was just important for me, just so that you craft how aligned the elements of what we are looking for and what the solution provided came into being. Yes, yeah. But Michael Bush continues to remain the highlight of my life and career.
He's an amazing guy.
Yeah, so that was the year 2 where we really immersed ourselves into the automation, which is looking at the solution, and year 3, which is where we are now. We are in the accelerating growth phase, which is the digitization phase. We really be able to digitize, and I'm going to talk to our journey then and our experiences, right? So the first thing around Workday, before then it came into the organization, is that we had to listen to our people. At Altron, what we do, as Zuko said, we've got a kickoff that happens every year. We run culture surveys, we run deep stick surveys. We've got MDs, which are managing the operations, and the CEO. We've got the dedicated email address that is open to people for them to be able to provide recommendations, to be able to raise issues that they have. So we really are transparent in terms of, if something is not working, please raise it. If it's working, please raise it too, so that we also are in this together. So we do listen to our people. And this is one of the slides that, and some of the stuff that were said by a strategy session that happened as we were preparing for the kickoff the following year. And as we clearly can see, we were nowhere in terms of a technology solution provider. The next slide, I also just want to paint a picture of just how unintegrated and complex and costly the enterprise solution space was. And I mean, you can focus on the HR in terms of what we had. I mean, we had a whole conglomeration of, Excel. My eyes specifically went to an Excel. We had pages and pages and pages and books of Excel SharePoints. We had an LMS called Signify. We had all of those platforms that we had, very uncoordinated, and it was very difficult to be able to have data. And at Altron, we always say that data is key, but the value of data is gold. So there was no way that we can mine gold with the data that we have, because it was very much complex. And once we introduced our digital transformation process and platform, this is what we ended up with. I mean, literally in HR, we standardized, we looked at what are the repeatable technical stuff. They should not be surfacing anywhere above the line. They must be below the line. We need to look at the technology experience that staff and customers must have internally. We're looking at efficiencies. We're looking at simplifying our journey. And by doing all of this, I'm just focusing on the HR. Obviously, the digital transformation journey was cutting across the finance entity, the sales, and the operation. And by implementing these streamlined entities and streamlining our enterprise, we were able to unlock, a 15% reduction in the spend the cost that we were spending on our technology that were in the organization. So just to give you a sense that when you kind of plan and you really follow your digital transformation strategy that has been laid out there, you can be able to realize the results that you put forward. I'm just going to go quickly through the lessons that we learned. So these are the key takeaways for us in terms of how we implement Workday as part of our digital transformation journey, right? So the first thing for us was to create a roadmap. It is very important for us to create a roadmap that is linked to the strategy. Anything that you do, you need to go back to your strategy and locate it. If you cannot locate what you're trying to do and the steps, the roadmap steps that you're going to take, not just for this year, not just for year 2, you need to have at least a year 3 to 5 roadmap of how is this going to work? How is it going to work out? And the other key takeaway that we learned was to simplify the message. I mean, the technology language and the technology jargon that, one was hearing throughout the process of our digital journey as we started. At some point, it was very clear that we are losing 60% of our people, because 60% of our people have got no clue what we're talking about in terms of the jargon we're talking about. So we went into a process of, if we talk about the digital transformation journey, simplify the journey. What does it mean for a typical person who works at Altron? What does it mean for a solution that we bringing forward? What does it mean for our clients outside? And therefore, all of the other elements that we had to do, we had to simplify our message. Why are we getting Workday? And part of our simplifying of the message is we went through at HR, and actually some of the Other, we call them buddies, or we call them ambassadors. We went through a process of saying, let's actually look at what are we looking for in this solution. And it was very humbling to hear when we went through that process to try and simplify what we are looking for. This is where we termed and we started to brand our solution in HR. We call it now Altron OneTouch. So you hear that Altron OneTouch is actually a solution. It's a solution that's powered by Workday, but it was OneTouch because, one, we wanted to simplify the message. We want to make sure that whatever the solution and whenever the solution comes, the solution mirrors immediately what the staff requires, what the staff expects, and what our strategy actually says. The other key takeaway for me was to get the board and management on board. And this was getting the board on board is actually the easy stuff. The difficult stuff was the management, to get them on board, because you must remember the experience of the manager and the experience of the board in terms of the solution are not necessarily the same. At the board level, it's a solution that is linked to the strategy. When you show them where the cost-benefit analysis is going to be, how efficient it's going to be, they'll buy it. It goes to the investment committee, it gets signed off. The management, you not just be able to work on the cost-benefit analysis, but you're also going to have to work on the mindset. Because this is the management that has worked on all of those 7 kind of platforms that they've had before. They've operated like that. They've operated on Excel for 17 years or for 20 years. So why are we bringing this solution right now? So it was very, very key that, we work the journey with the management team, because they are going to be the ones that are using the technology or the solution. They are the ones that are actually going to sell the notion of the Altron OneTouch into the organization, and why it's important. And they're going to be able to utilize it to make sure that it empowers the staff and they also get empowered. So part of what I found difficult in this journey is really the mindset change, the journey, the change management process. And I mean, we're all in HR. Most of us in HR, we've done change management. And until and unless change management, you can actually see how it unlocks the management mindset. I don't care how many templates of great change management we have. We have not touched even the sense of what we want to do. The other key takeaway for me was keeping people at the center, because the solution is a solution that will work. Solution will work. There's no doubt about it. What is key really is, are the people with you? Is the solution going to speak to the mindset of the people? Is it going to be an innovation that matters to the people? You have to keep asking those questions. Go back to the purpose. When we bring a solution, it has to be a solution that people will use, because otherwise it becomes a white elephant. And we know, having been in HR a long time, we know of these other white elephants that we've had in the past, that great, a solution comes, we're all excited, 3 months down the line, nobody's using it. So it was important to always keep people at the center. Why is this? What is the benefit to the people? Why is this solution important? And repeat and repeat and re-repeat. Because people forget unless they actually do and they actually engage, and it touches them to a point where they utilize it every day. So that was a good key takeaway for me. The other key takeaway that really was a bit of a surprise, and that kind of hold us back, and that's why the poll that we had, that we're running now, it was a real revelation to our organization that we actually have got, almost about 40 or 50% of our staff that actually, one, are not technological savvy. So the best that they've gotten to a technology was a phone, and a phone that they utilize. Probably it's not even going to be a smartphone, it's some kind of phone. So we realized that the skill level that we need to bring into the organization across the board, not just, and don't think it's just at lower levels, it's across the board. You had managers that are afraid of a computer. So we actually needed to fill that gap. And really that takes time. It takes time. And you also become very clear that, you know, you need to build this time as part of the cost and benefit analysis of your organization, because you will not realize the benefit if people are not at the right level of the technology survey that you realize. My key takeaway from number 6 really was around the fact that, as tough as it is, you're going to have to reorganize your people. What we found is that, one, even in the HR space, not all HR people are technologically savvy. And if they're not, this is what they call an HR solution. It's a business solution, but it is housed in HR. It is HR data. The quality of our data and the accountability of this solution to be able to work, as much as everybody uses in the organization, is an HR system. It's an HR solution. And you kind of need, the reality is that you're going to have to play on people's strengths. You're going to have to move people around. You're going to have to look at your strategy and say, if your strategy goes into digitization, you know, there are people that might not even want to be in the digital space. So you need to be able to reorganize your people so that you really play to people's strengths. The management, key takeaway, they need to manage differently. The biggest thing around, which is still a learning right now, is letting go. Because the solution is so empowering that we've just done an analysis now, 70% of all our processes that we're doing are now done by OneTouch. And therefore, one, it provides an opportunity for an HR professional to say, HR professional, rise up to the transformational HR and strategic HR that you should be doing. You don't have to push a paper anymore to sign off a process. Your skills are required now to be doing things differently. And therein lies the gap and the space. Because that's where you need your HR people to come to the party to be able to fill that gap that the solution is clearly going to expose. So these were the 6 kind of lessons and takeaways as we went through the OneTouch implementation process. One of the key things as well is when we started the project, which we started last year, June, it was important to also, you know, this whole way of when you start a process and then you nominate people to be part of the project team, and then these people kind of double up to being an HR this, and then they come to do, and it was very clear from the beginning that if this is our strategy, we therefore need to build a team that is actually going to be an Altron OneTouch team. So therefore, we had to build a team, taking people, resigning them out of the job that they have into forming a project team, because they also are going to go to be immersed into a whole new training, a whole new way of how solution and technology work. So we had a team of about 5 people that are leads in terms of, you know, data leads, integration leads, all of the leads that we require. That became the core team of Altron OneTouch, that worked on the design, that worked on the development, all the whole process that Workday take you through in terms of building this solution or this tenant. And we had all the HR people as well as functional support from the core team. And we had a very, very long time, 4 or 5 months of really working with, obviously, our partners in terms of Workday and our partners in terms of PwC being the implementing partner of Workday. So it was it really was a great it's a great journey. We went live on the 20th of July. July. Time is running away with me. We went live, but we went live 20th of July. Thank you, Zuko. On time during COVID. And part of the questions have been, how have you been able to go live, in a time when, the world, not necessarily a country, the world was going through what it was going through, right? So, and I thought, let me just quickly just take you through some of our, I call it disruption, because we really were disrupted. We are really looking forward to this great go live. And as you know Altron by now, and our branding, capability and our digitization capability is stronger than ever. So we were really, really looking forward to going really gung-ho in terms of that. We were hung back, but the key decision that was made was, when the organization had to prepare itself for COVID, obviously cost reduction, as all organizations were going through. Let's look at our cost. Let's look at how this is going to be. One of the decision was that all big projects are going to have to be halted or cut. Only projects that really have got a very clear impact and are very much strongly aligned to the strategy are the projects that are going to go ahead and continue even during this time. So that was testimony to how closely aligned and how strategic this OneTouch was to the broader digital transformation of the organization and broader strategy. And that was one of the projects that was left to continue and not halted or stopped or whatever the case might be. And as we went now into the mode of enabling the environment so that COVID can do its course and do what it wants to do, these are some of the elements that we had to deal with. So 80% of our people were enabled. I mean, Altron as a technology was one of those organizations that was working during that was essential service. So we actually had to divide people, as a lot of organizations did. We divided people between people that are really essential, that needs to come to work, people that can work from home, and people that we basically are going to stay at home and during the time. And these are some of the elements and the stuff that we needed to do. We were led by specific principles. We had COVID principles, 6 principles that were COVID principles that directed each and every decision that was being done around what we do during the COVID time. So 80%, if not 90% of our people are enabled as we speak. They can work from home. And because we work as an organization that looks at the broader ecosystem. So we don't just look at the staff member. We look at the staff member. We look at the staff member family, and we say, okay, within your family, how many people do you have in your family? What amount of data are you going to need? What connectivity are you going to need? And we provide that enablement, because we know people, kids are at home. They do school, online schooling, and all of that, right? We also are managing the spread of the virus, like all the organizations are doing, in terms of, we do have a platform that people register themselves, whether you have tested and you've tested positive, whether you feel that you are experiencing the symptoms, you log in there, and as it's probably the regulation also that's required, the information and the data come through to the committee or the team that really works on COVID, and we are able to contact people that you've been in contact with if you are positive. So there was quite a lot of work that we did. We heightened communication. We did touch points. We are now at a point where 5 months now into working from home. The leadership or the executive has taken a position that we will work from home. We're not coming to work. I only came to work today because I didn't want this webinar to be disturbed by my kids at the background. But we made a commitment to say that we need to lead by example and we need to be at home, simply because we need to control the virus and take responsibility. This is where I think my presentation ends. I'm going to end these are some of the and how we enhance the capability in terms of working from home. And it basically repeats what I've just said in terms of, the communication tools that we provided, information policy that we put together, and continuing to get employee feedback. Because, organizations that at this time, if they have not a very strong sense of culture and values, we saw that they struggle a little bit, because during this disruptive time, there was nothing they had nothing to fall back on. They had no sense of how the organization will work, because there isn't a sense of culture and values that are entrenched. So I promise this is the last slide that I have. I've got a video that I would like to play, and the video really, as I signed out, the video is about how the world is going. We have to be technologically savvy, and at Altron, it really is a quest to make it closer to people, so that any innovation that we do, it matters to people. That's where I end my story. Jewel, I don't know.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Dolores. I'm going to start the video, and after that we'll address all the questions. And please, as the video plays, let all your questions come through as well in the chat. We'll get to as many as possible before the hour, and we'll also hear a little bit more from Zuko. So here's the video, Dolores.
Thank you.
I've known you from the very beginning. From the very beginning. Watched as you started exploring the world. When you first felt feeling of wonder. When you first felt that feeling of wonder. I was there when you had your heart broken. And when it became free, I was there when you went from growing knowledge to sharing it with the world. I was there to make sure you were satisfied. When you found your forever love. You've arrived at your destination. You've arrived at your destination. And looked on as life drew full circle. And looked on coming full circle. I've been there all along. I've been there all along. And I always will be. And I will be. I've been there all along. And I always will be.
Wow.
Dolores brings a lump into my throat, that video.
Incredible video. It's an incredible video. Come full circle. All right. Thanks, Dolores. I think in the interest of time, I'm just going to be brief, Joel. Joel, I can't hear you. All right. I'm just going to be brief, just summarize one or two things, and then maybe just open.
Yeah, I'm doing the mute moment.
Okay, and open up for questions. So key takeaways for me is that, I mean, one of our biggest obsessions at Workday is customer satisfaction. So it really, really warms my heart to listen to a customer narrate a story about the journey that we've had. One of the commitments that we made with Altron right from the beginning was that this is a partnership. We don't want to just be another supplier. This is a partnership. And we are looking forward to moving on this journey. I think one of the big things that you've mentioned, Dolores, that you've been live for just over a month. One of the big things, you're starting to see value. But one of the big things that we do at Workday is that we work with you around that value realization, because you would recall at a board level, one of the things that we had to do was to work with you to build that business case, and we articulated the message of the Workday value. So we certainly want to be there the entire time, to come back to you at some point and do a value realization to see what are the benefits that you've derived out of Workday, right? And continue the partnership. I think the secret for success for me, key things, I always speak openly to prospects about this. Our drive is not to replace technology, is not to do a lift and shift. Our drive is to speak to board imperatives, to speak to the strategy that at a board level, that like Dolores articulated today, is to speak to that. Because when you do that, you've got direct exec sponsorship, and it means that there is a purpose that the technology is trying to enable. So for me, that's something that's quite important. The other thing that I would commend is it's the amazing partnership between HR and IT that was at Altron. It was super, super, super amazing. So I would really, really give kudos on that. I think maybe just to take it back a little bit on Workday is, when I listen to a story like this, it speaks to one of the things the founding member of Workday, our CEO, has always said, that happy employees lead to happy customers, and it's certainly what we're trying to do. We're trying to make a difference at an employee level and get the employees to be so engaged to a point that are going to speak to the profitability that is one of the strategic levers that Altron are driving for. Last but not least, we are a technology that was inspired by the internet technology. So for us, by the consumer internet. So for us, it's always about how you experience using Workday, not just a technology that's going to be. Dolores mentioned some of the people who are inside Altron that are not very au fait with technology, but for us, we want to build a technology that's similar to some of our customers, like a Facebook, a LinkedIn, a Google, an Amazon, where you do not need to be trained to search on Google. So we want to create an experience like that, certainly in the enterprise space. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, Dolores. On behalf of Workday, I'd like to thank you and your executive team at Altron for the partnership, and we are in this together, in this partnership. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suko. In the meantime, I've published the outcomes of the poll in the sidebar. I'm not going to talk about it because we've got 6 minutes left, and I rather just go to a couple of the questions, Dolores, and we will get to the questions we don't address in the webinar over email. So if you have asked a question and we don't mention it, you'll hear from us. Dolores, there were two questions around training. Zalia Froster asked, how did you roll out your training? Where did you start? And Esther Somtsewu also said, she's quite interested during COVID. How did that work to roll something out like that? Maybe you can comment on that, Dolores.
So so in terms of training, we started quite early to prepare. So we started around January, if say around December. We started to prepare how we're going to train. So we first had to divide our different stakeholders. As you would you understand, not different stakeholders are going to need different kind of things to engage with the solution and to experience the solution. So we had a specific training for executives, so my stakeholders. We had specific training for staff and for managers. So these were our three key stakeholders, really, because the key is that for managers, it was going to really be more in terms of what is required of them to do. So with these three stakeholders, focused on them, and we still build manuals, book manuals. The people still want paper to fill a paper. We build manuals. We build videos that really just goes to the touch point of how to. So something short, punchy that people can grab. We built a board that actually people can just ask the board questions and the board will give them all the answers that they want. So we had different kinds of solutions that we made available for people to access. For my closely to my stakeholders, which is really Mteto and his direct reports and all the MDs. We basically we dedicated 9 hours of training, cut down into 3 days. So we had 3 hours a day where we take them through, obviously, what it means for them. What are they going to do when they log in there? What is going to be appearing? And what is a typical day of an executive? What does Mteto need? Mteto needs reports. So Mteto, how do you go to reports? We take them through. Literally, old adage of training, we took people through them. And obviously during the time of COVID, we did use Teams. We partners of Teams very closely, so very much Teams, and we cut down also the numbers into smaller chunks because we had buddies. We've got Altron OneTouch buddies everywhere in the organization. We have got about 200 buddies across all the organization. So the issue is to focus. If you are in an operation, you will have a human capital head, you will have a buddy, you will have a key representative from a business. These three people are the one Altron OneTouch people that you'll be able to go to. They were given very, very core training, and then they can disseminate the training. And obviously all the modules, all the videos are on the SharePoint. Everybody can access them to go and check, how do I do this? The board is working very nicely. You can also ask the board the question as well.
Awesome, Dolores. Just time for one more short question and answer, I think, in this webinar, and the rest we'll get to later. Nomsa from Bala will send me a private question that I thought was quite interesting. Can you share a bit more about how your core team was set up for the project, just to get it going and to run through it?
Yes. So the nice thing about Workday is that at the beginning, they take you through, long before they can even come in and you start the project, there is a whole 5-day process that they take you through. And that 5-day process is called discovery process. You basically are discovering how this journey is going to work. So in the discovery process, I invited all HR people. I mean, I've got about 200 HR staff members. They came and they sat through the whole discovery where Workday asked us lots of questions, whatever. The key thing about that and why that is important is that out of that, you are able to then get a typical structure of what structure do you need to be able to deliver this entity. And based on that structure, we basically had roles. We had a data lead. We had a change lead. We had an HR function lead. we had a security lead. So these were the four key, five, remember the fifth one. These are the 5 core key lead people. And because of what they need to be able to deliver and to do, there is a function that they actually need to do. So we actually build, okay, a data lead, what should a data lead be able to do? And based on that, I then sent all these functions to the HR community and said to the HR community, here are the 5 roles that exist for the new project that's going to happen. You can't come and become a data lead when you can't manipulate data on the system. So there was a little bit of, we require you to be able to do certain things for you to come and be able to be a lead in the team. And people applied internally within HR. People applied, and those that made, and we sat through interview. Some of the people, or the 2 people, did not apply. We knew that the competency is very strong in terms of what this require. So I basically, took them out of where they are to put them in this. So it was a combination of HR people applying, because there are very clear roles of what the people need to be able to do, and then also some hard work and talent. I pull them up to actually be part of the project team. I'm not sure if that answers the question.
Fantastic, Dolores. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time, Zuko, and obviously most of all the attendees of the CHRO community. Thanks for joining and all the engagement in the chat. This is the webinar that we were in. If you can't remember, but you probably still know that. It was really fantastic. So as we said, the questions that we haven't addressed, we will address over email. You will all receive a recording of this webinar as well in an hour's time. And if you want to get hold of any of these people that you see on screen at the moment, then we can definitely also help with that. In the coming weeks. We've got more webinars. Obviously, we've got one a week. So next week we're doing one with Oracle, where Zuko used to work. So he loves those people as well, I believe.
Now that it's recorded.
Okay. And then the week after, we've got a very serious topic that I also really look forward to, about the raw reality of Me Too. Hosted by my colleague Judith. Very important discussion of around the role of HR. So please go to chro.co.za/events and keep an eye on what we're up to and what your community is up to. So having said that, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone, and thank you once again, Zuko and Dolores, and hope to see you soon at the next one.
Thank you to everybody who logged on as well. I actually didn't say thank you. Thank you to everybody. I enjoyed myself. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Zuko.
Thank you all. Yes, take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.